Thank you for joining me today. What I'm about to share is a true story about betrayal, vengeance, and the thin line between justice and destruction. It's about a family torn apart by jealousy, a wedding that became a battleground, and a woman who chose truth over loyalty. This isn't a fairy tale. This is about people, flawed, desperate, and capable of both incredible cruelty and unexpected courage. It's about Cordelia Blackthorne, whose brother's wedding became the stage for the most spectacular family implosion I've ever witnessed. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Cordelia stared at the eviction notice taped to her apartment door. 3 months. That's how long she'd been behind on rent since the lawsuit destroyed everything she'd built. Her tech startup, once valued at $12 million, was now just a collection of patent disputes and frozen assets. Cord. A voice called from the hallway. She turned to see Jasper, her younger brother, approaching with that look. The one that mixed pity with barely concealed satisfaction. Mom told me you weren't returning her calls. Cordelia crumpled the notice and shoved it into her jacket pocket. I've been busy job hunting, right? Jasper's eyes drifted to the eviction notice's residue on her door. Listen, I have news. Good news, actually. I'm getting married. She forced a smile. Congratulations. When? 6 weeks. Evangeline Ashworth. You remember her from Stanford? Her father owns Ashworth Industries. The way he said it, like he'd won a prize, made something cold settle in Cordelia's stomach. The wedding will be at the Metropolitan Club. Black tie, of course. Mom's already planning. I'll be there, she interrupted, not trusting herself to say more. After he left, Cordelia stood in her empty hallway, listening to Mrs. Chen's television bleeding through thin walls. 6 weeks to figure out how to afford a dress that wouldn't scream failure at her brother's society wedding. 6 weeks to pretend she hadn't noticed the look of relief on Jasper's face when he thought she might not come. She pulled out her phone and called her only remaining friend from before everything fell apart. Theron? She said when he answered. I need your help. The Blackthorne family had always been complicated. Cornelius Blackthorne, their father, built his fortune in military contracts during the early 2000s, turning a small security firm into a defense industry giant. Their mother, Vivian, came from old Houston money, the kind that whispered about bloodlines and breeding over brandy. Cordelia had been the golden child, graduating summa cum laude from MIT, earning 2 computer science degrees before 25. Her AI-driven cybersecurity platform had caught the attention of Fortune 500 companies and venture capitalists alike. She'd been featured on magazine covers, quoted in congressional hearings about digital warfare. The future belonged to her. Then came Marcus Thorne, her business partner and fiancé. Brilliant, charming, and absolutely ruthless. She discovered his betrayal 6 months too late, how he'd been feeding their proprietary code to competitors, how he'd systematically isolated her from key investors, how he'd seduced not just her trade secrets but also her younger brother's loyalty. Jasper had always lived in her shadow. Decent grades, decent job at their father's company, decent everything. When Marcus offered him a position at a rival firm, along with inside information about Cordelia's upcoming product launch, Jasper took it. The younger brother finally had his chance to eclipse the sister who'd always been the special one. The lawsuits started 3 months later. Intellectual property theft, breach of contract, industrial espionage. Marcus had covered his tracks well, leaving Cordelia to face the music alone. Her legal team estimated the defense would cost close to $2 million. She'd liquidated everything: her savings, her condo, her car, even her mother's antique jewelry gifts. But it wasn't enough. Now she lived in a studio apartment in Chinatown, working temp jobs and surviving on instant noodles, while Jasper announced his engagement to shipping heiress Evangeline Ashworth. Your timing is impeccable, Theron had said when she'd called him that day. Broke and bitter, just in time for a society wedding. Theron Caldwell had been her mentor at MIT, a professor of computational theory who'd become her closest friend. At 65, he understood family dynamics better than most therapists. His own son had disowned him after he'd come out late in life, following his wife's death. What do you need? he'd asked. A way to survive this with some dignity intact. Dignity is overrated. What you need is armor. The next morning, he'd appeared at her door with a designer dress bag and a plan. Evangeline Ashworth, he'd said, settling onto her sagging couch. I did some research. Graduated from Wellesley summa cum laude. Double major in economics and art history. Her senior thesis was on corporate malfeasance in the art world. Specifically, how family businesses use shell companies to hide assets during financial difficulties. Cordelia had looked up from the dress. A stunning midnight blue Armani that somehow fit perfectly. And her father's company has been under SEC investigation for the past 18 months. Quietly, of course. Something about military contracts and offshore accounts. Why are you telling me this? Theron's smile had been sharp. Because knowledge is power, my dear. And you're going to need all the power you can get. The wedding preparations became a slow torture. Their mother, Vivian, called daily with updates that felt like deliberate wounds. Jasper specifically requested that you not be in the wedding party, darling. He thinks it might be awkward, given your situation. Of course, Cordelia had replied, gripping the phone until her knuckles went white. And the photographers have been instructed to be discreet about family photos. Translation: don't let the bankrupt daughter ruin the wedding album. 2 weeks before the wedding, Cordelia ran into Marcus at a coffee shop in downtown Houston. He looked good, too good. The kind of good that comes from money that should have been hers. Cord. He slid into the chair across from her before she could leave. You look tired. Funny how embezzlement ages a person. He laughed. Actually laughed. Still bitter, I see. You know, this whole victim act doesn't suit you. Neither did trusting you. Business is business. You of all people should understand that. He leaned back, confident. I heard about the eviction notice. If you need help with money you stole from me, money I earned by being smarter than you. His eyes hardened. You were always too trusting, Cord. Too honest for your own good. In the real world, that's a liability. He stood to leave, then paused. Oh, and I'll be at the wedding. Evangeline and I go way back. College friends, you know. I'm even giving a toast. After he left, Cordelia sat there shaking. Not from anger, from the sudden, crystal-clear realization that this wasn't over. This was still happening. Marcus wasn't content with destroying her company. He needed to grind her reputation into dust in front of everyone who'd ever respected her. That night, she called Jasper. I need to ask you something, she said when he answered. Cord? It's midnight. Did you know? About Marcus and the code theft. Silence stretched between them like a chasm. Jasper, it's not that simple. Did you know? Marcus offered me 30% above market rate. And a signing bonus. Mom and Dad were already disappointed in me. And you were this shining star and I just... She hung up. The next morning, she found an envelope under her door. Inside, a cashier's check for $50,000 and a note in Jasper's handwriting. For the wedding, so you don't have to worry about looking poor. She'd torn up the check and thrown the pieces in his face when he came by that evening. I don't want your guilt money, she'd said. It's not guilt money. It's what? Payment for keeping quiet about your betrayal? His face flushed. You think you're so perfect. You think everyone should just bow down to the great Cordelia Blackthorne. Well, newsflash. The world doesn't revolve around you. Is that what you tell yourself? That I deserved what you did. I tell myself that I finally got my chance, and I took it, just like you would have. No, Jasper. Nothing like I would have. After he left, she'd picked up the torn pieces of the check and carefully taped them back together. Not because she planned to deposit it, but because she wanted to remember this moment. The moment her little brother showed her exactly who he really was. Theron called 3 days later. I have news, he said, about the Ashworth investigation. I don't want to hear it. Yes, you do. The SEC found irregularities in their military contracts. Specifically, contracts that were awarded after they hired Jasper Blackthorne. contracts that mysteriously went to companies using technology stolen from you. Cordelia sat down hard on her couch. What are you saying? I'm saying your brother didn't just betray you for money. He betrayed his country. Those defense contracts were using your security protocols, the ones Marcus stole. The ones that should have been protecting military installations. The phone slipped from her numb fingers. When she picked it up, Theron was still talking. There's more. Evangeline knows. She's been feeding information to the SEC for months. Her father doesn't know she's the source, but she's been documenting everything. Every contract, every payment, every shell company transaction. Why would she? Because she's not just a pretty face, Cordelia. She's an economist who understands exactly what her family's business does. And she's been waiting for the right moment to expose it all. The wedding was in 5 days. What do I do with this information? She asked. Nothing. You're not the one who needs to do anything. What do you mean? I mean, sometimes the best revenge is just showing up and watching other people destroy themselves. That night, Cordelia couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Evangeline. Brilliant, principled Evangeline. Marrying into a family that had systematically betrayed everything Cordelia had built. Unless, what if Evangeline wasn't just documenting the crimes? What if she was planning something bigger? The Metropolitan Club gleamed with Houston's elite. Cordelia arrived in Theron's borrowed Tesla, wearing the midnight blue Armani and her grandmother's pearls, the only jewelry she hadn't sold. She spotted her parents immediately. Her father, distinguished in his military dress uniform, holding court with defense contractors. Her mother, resplendent in champagne silk, air-kissing city council members and oil heiresses. Neither acknowledged her. Cordelia Blackthorne. She turned to find Marcus beside her, immaculate in his tuxedo. You came. I wouldn't miss my brother's wedding. Even after our conversation? Especially after. His smile faltered slightly, but before he could respond, the ceremony music began. Cordelia found her seat, 3rd row, behind cousins she barely knew. As Evangeline walked down the aisle, she was radiant. But there was something else in her expression. A cold determination that made Cordelia's pulse quicken. The ceremony proceeded without incident. Traditional vows, traditional rings, traditional kiss. But when they were pronounced husband and wife, Evangeline's smile looked more like a shark's than a bride's. The reception, however, was where everything unraveled. During cocktail hour, Cordelia watched as Marcus worked the room, charming investors and politicians. He was building something, a network, influence, power, using her stolen technology as his calling card. Cordelia, she turned to find Evangeline approaching, wedding dress perfect, smile serene. I'm so glad you could make it. Could I steal you away for a moment? There's something I'd like to discuss. They stepped out onto the club's terrace, overlooking the Houston skyline. I know who you are, Evangeline said without preamble. And I know what they did to you. What? Your brother, Marcus, my father. They used you. Cordelia's breath caught. How do you? I've been watching, documenting, waiting. Evangeline's hands didn't shake despite the magnitude of what she was saying. The SEC case is just the beginning. The real crimes go deeper. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand what's going to happen next. Evangeline's eyes were bright, almost feverish. In about 20 minutes, Jasper is going to make a toast. A very special toast where he's going to thank Marcus publicly for helping him find his place in the family business. Oh God, my father arranged it. One final humiliation for you. Public acknowledgement that your own brother helped destroy you. So you married into this family to destroy it from the inside. Evangeline's smile was cold. I've been engaged to your brother for 8 months, Cordelia. 8 months of pretending to love him while documenting every crime, every betrayal, every stolen contract. You're insane. Am I? They destroyed you because you threatened them, because you were brilliant and independent and wouldn't play their games. They need you to be broken, to be a cautionary tale. This is what happens to women who get too big for their britches. And your solution is to destroy your own marriage? My solution is justice. Evangeline checked her phone. 15 minutes. By the time Jasper finishes his toast, every phone in this room will have simultaneous access to a cloud drive containing 18 months of documented evidence. Bank records, email exchanges, recorded conversations. Everything. Cordelia felt dizzy. You're going to release it here? Tonight. I'm going to release it everywhere. The SEC already has copies, but they move slowly. The media, however. She smiled. The media moves fast, especially when you hand them everything they need for a corruption expose that reaches the highest levels of defense contracting. Your father will be ruined. My father sold weapons technology to our enemies using your brother's stolen code. He deserves to be ruined. But Jasper will finally face consequences for his actions. Just like Marcus, just like all of them. They stood in silence, watching the Houston lights twinkle below. Why now? Cordelia asked finally. Why wait for your wedding day? Because this way everyone will remember. The Blackthorne-Ashworth wedding won't be remembered for the flowers or the dress or the speeches. It'll be remembered as the night a family empire fell. You'll destroy yourself too. I'll survive. I always have. Evangeline straightened her dress. I should get back. Jasper's about to begin. They returned to find guests raising champagne glasses. Jasper stood at the head table, microphone in hand, beaming. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began. This day wouldn't be possible without so many people who've supported Evangeline and me. Cordelia caught her parents' eyes across the room. Her mother was already dabbing tears with her napkin. Her father stood proud and straight, every inch the distinguished patriarch. I especially want to thank someone who's been like a mentor to me, Jasper continued. Someone who showed me that sometimes, to get ahead in business, you have to be willing to make hard choices. Marcus stepped forward slightly, preparing for his acknowledgement. My business partner and dear friend Marcus Thorne, who taught me that loyalty to family sometimes means making sacrifices. Because of his guidance, I've been able to secure contracts worth over $50 million for the Blackthorne-Ashworth partnership. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Cordelia felt sick. So please, raise your glasses to Marcus. That's when it happened. Every phone in the room buzzed simultaneously. A soft, almost musical sound, like wind chimes in a breeze. Guests frowned at their devices. Then expressions began to change. Confusion, shock, horror. What the hell? Marcus stepped toward Jasper, but stopped as his own phone began buzzing incessantly. A woman screamed. Someone dropped their champagne glass. My God! Breathed a judge in the front row, staring at his screen. These are bank records. Foreign accounts. This is Jesus Christ, another guest whispered, showing his phone to the person beside him. Is this from tonight? That's Cornelius Blackthorne's signature. On defense contracts. Look at these amounts. The room erupted into chaos. People pushing forward. Phones raised. Voices raised. Evangeline. Jasper grabbed his bride's arm. Did you? How did? She smiled at him with perfect composure. Congratulations on your wedding day, husband. That's when Cornelius Blackthorne took the microphone from his son. Ladies and gentlemen, his booming voice cut through the noise. I'm sure this is some kind of technical malfunction. Actually, Evangeline said, stepping up beside him. It's not. She gestured, and a massive screen descended from the ceiling, clearly prearranged. Security footage began playing. Jasper in a conference room, sliding documents across a table to Marcus. Her father signing contracts with timestamps showing dates when he was supposed to be in military hearings. Audio clips of phone conversations. The Blackthorne girls' security protocols are perfect. We can implement them in the Syrian contract without anyone knowing. You bitch! Marcus lunged toward Evangeline, but hotel security was already moving. Through the chaos, Cordelia heard her mother's voice. Cordelia! Cordelia! Did you know about this? And then, cutting through everything like a blade, Evangeline's voice. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my wedding gift to the American people. The complete betrayal of our national security, orchestrated by the Blackthorne and Ashworth families. The screen now showed the stolen code, Cordelia's code, integrated into weapon systems shipped to hostile nations. Jasper was staring at his wife in horror. You destroyed us all. You destroyed yourselves. I just documented it. FBI agents were already at the doors. Later, Cordelia would learn that Evangeline had timed this perfectly. The agents had been waiting for this moment for months. In the chaos, as guests fled and phones continued buzzing with new evidence, Cordelia found herself standing alone near the head table. Evangeline approached one last time. I'm sorry, she said quietly, that it took your brother's wedding to get you justice. Did you do this for me? I did this for everyone they've hurt. But yes, I thought about you a lot while planning it. How is that fair that you lost everything while they prospered? And now they'll lose everything too. But unlike you, they deserve it. As the FBI led her father and brother away in handcuffs, as her mother collapsed into a chair sobbing, as the society photographers captured the greatest scandal in Houston's history, Cordelia felt something she hadn't expected. Relief. It was over. Finally, it was over. 6 months later, Cordelia stood in her new office. A modest space in a downtown tech incubator. But it was hers. Clean. Honest. Legitimate. The trials had been swift. With Evangeline's evidence, there was little to contest. Marcus got 8 years for industrial espionage and fraud. Jasper received 6 years for conspiracy and theft of classified technology. Her father, surprisingly, had struck a plea deal in exchange for testimony against foreign contractors. He'd served 4 years, but he was cooperating fully. The stolen money had been recovered. Her patents were returned. The company that had acquired her technology was forced to pay substantial damages. But none of it felt like victory. Second thoughts. Theron asked from the doorway. At 70, he'd decided to come out of retirement to help her rebuild. Not about this. She gestured to the space where her new team was setting up equipment. About them. She'd visited Jasper twice in prison. The first time, he'd cried, apologized, begged for forgiveness. The second time, he'd been angry, bitter. You could have stopped her, he'd said. If you'd warned me, I could have prevented this. How? She'd asked. You knew what she was planning. You had to know. I had 10 minutes of warning, Jasper. 10 minutes. But you didn't try to stop her. That was true. She'd stood there and let it happen. Would you? She'd asked. If someone was about to expose the people who'd ruined your life, would you stop them? He turned away from her then, and she knew their relationship was truly over. Their mother had sold the house in River Oaks and moved to her sister's in Dallas. She'd called Cordelia once, drunk, at 3 in the morning. I lost both my children, she'd sobbed. One to prison, one to righteousness. I'm not gone, Mom. Aren't you? When was the last time you came to dinner? When was the last time you called just to chat? Cordelia hadn't had an answer. The money had been returned, yes, but she couldn't buy back the 3 years of struggle, the nights she'd gone to bed hungry, the shame of telling potential investors why her previous company had failed. She couldn't resurrect the relationship with her brother, even if she'd wanted to. She couldn't undo the fact that she'd known what Evangeline was planning and had chosen justice over family, if what they'd had could even be called family. Any word from Evangeline? Theron asked, settling into the chair across from her desk. Cordelia touched the letter that had arrived that morning. She's in Colorado, teaching economics at a small college. And Jasper asked for a divorce 6 months into his sentence. She signed the papers without contesting anything. Do you blame her? For what? Exposing criminals who were selling military secrets? For ruining my brother's life? For not telling me what she was planning so I could stop her? Do you blame her? Cordelia was quiet for a long moment. I blame all of us. Jasper for betraying me. Marcus for using us both. My father for choosing money over ethics. My mother for caring more about appearances than right and wrong. And yourself, for not seeing it sooner, for trusting people I shouldn't have. for caring more about family loyalty than integrity. She picked up Evangeline's letter. It was short. Cordelia, I hope you can forgive me for not warning you. Couldn't risk it. I hope you know that I never wanted to hurt you, only to make things right. I think about you often and hope you're building something beautiful. What will you tell her? Theron asked. Nothing. There's nothing to say. But that wasn't entirely true. What she wanted to say was complicated. Thank you. I hate you. You saved me. You destroyed my family. You did the right thing. You did a terrible thing. I understand. I'll never understand. Her phone buzzed with a text from her new partner, Elena. Venture capitalists confirmed for Thursday. They're very interested. This time she was being careful. Background checks, references, legal review of every agreement. She'd learned that paranoia wasn't a flaw but a necessity. I need to get back to work, she told Theron. Will you be okay? Define okay. Will you rebuild? I'm already rebuilding. Will you forgive? That was harder. I don't know. Maybe eventually. But I don't think I'll ever trust the same way again. That's not necessarily a bad thing. After he left, Cordelia sat alone in her office, watching the city lights begin to twinkle in the dusk. Somewhere out there, Jasper was probably lying on a prison cot, planning what he'd do when he got out. Marcus was likely doing the same in a different facility. Her father was cooperating with federal prosecutors, helping them understand how far the web of corruption extended. He'd aged 20 years in 6 months, her mother said. But he was talking, really talking, for the first time in his life. Maybe that was its own kind of justice. Cordelia picked up her laptop and opened the file for her new project. A cybersecurity platform for nonprofits and civilian organizations. Something that couldn't be weaponized. Something that would protect people instead of exploit them. She began to type, and for the first time in years, she felt something like peace. The future might be uncertain, but at least it was honest. So what do we make of this story? Of Cordelia, who chose her conscience over her family. Of Evangeline, who orchestrated justice through deception. Of Jasper, who let jealousy drive him to betray everything he claimed to love. I think it shows us that families aren't sacred just because they're family. Loyalty isn't virtue if it means protecting evil. And sometimes the people who seem the most innocent, the bride in white, the younger brother, the distinguished father, are capable of the deepest betrayals. Cordelia rebuilt her life, yes, but she lost things that can't be rebuilt. The easy trust, the assumption that family means safety, the possibility of looking at her brother and seeing anything other than the man who sold her out for money. Was Evangeline right to destroy their world so completely? Was there another way? These are questions that don't have easy answers. What I know is this: evil thrives when good people do nothing. When we prioritize comfort over courage, family loyalty over justice, social appearances over moral truth. The Blackthorne family looked perfect from the outside: successful business, beautiful homes, enviable connections. But it was all built on theft, betrayal, and corruption. Sometimes it takes an outsider, a new bride with hidden depths, to tear down what insiders have been too comfortable, too complicit, or too afraid to challenge. What's your story? Have you ever had to choose between loyalty and justice? Between family and conscience? Between the easy lie and the hard truth? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced betrayal in your own family? How did you handle it? What would you have done in Cordelia's position, knowing what Evangeline was planning? Like this video if it made you think, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Sometimes we all need reminders that it's possible to rebuild after devastating betrayal. Not easily, not without scars, but with more wisdom and stronger boundaries than we had before. Until next time, remember, the truth doesn't always set you free, but it usually sets things right. Take care of yourselves and each other.